Hello, I'm Geetha Gurumurthy. Welcome to BBC News Now. And we begin with the Israel-Gaza war. And there is growing condemnation of an airstrike near Rafah, which Palestinian officials say killed at least 45 people, including women and children at a refugee camp. An Israeli government spokesman says the initial findings of its investigation are that an airstrike against a Hamas compound nearby set off a fire which killed the Palestinian civilians. The Palestinian presidency in the occupied West Bank described the strike as a massacre and accused Israel of deliberately targeting displaced people. Egypt has also condemned the attack and called on Israel to implement the order by the International Court of Justice to halt its military offensive in Rafah. French President Emmanuel Macron says he's outraged by the Israeli strikes on Rafah, and Qatar also says it could hinder reaching a ceasefire deal. Well, it came just hours after Hamas said it had launched a rocket attack on Tel Aviv on Sunday. Several were intercepted by air defence systems, according to the Israeli military. Dan Johnson has this report.
This was Israel's airstrike late last night in southern Gaza. It says targeting senior Hamas figures with precision weapons. But look what it did to the nearby camp where thousands of Palestinians were sheltering. Israel says it was striking legitimate targets in line with international law. But many of these people had already been uprooted many times through this conflict. Suddenly we heard the sound of a missile, Fadi says. We ran and found the street covered in smoke. We couldn't see anything. Then we found a girl and a young man who'd been blown to pieces. Women and children are among the casualties here in what they believed was a safe humanitarian zone. This morning, Israeli drones surveyed the damage as people questioned how this could happen.
We heard a very loud sound and saw fire. The kids were screaming, and all the rooms surrounding us were made out of metal sheets. The sound was terrifying.
We set up our tents here, and it has been targeted. They killed our children and burned our women and elderly in the place they claimed was safe. This is our 7th time being displaced.
Earlier yesterday, Hamas reminded Israelis it remains a threat. Tel Aviv came under rocket attack for the first time in months. There are questions over Israel's military strategy and an international court ruling against it.
Israel continues the military action that has been asked to stop. Also, Hamas is launching rockets against Israel, so both sides don't respect the ruling of the court.
Israel says a review will examine this loss of life. But it's Palestinians who count their dead and wonder where in Gaza they can find safety.
Dan Johnson reporting. Well, Avi Hyman is a spokesman for the Israeli government. He explained the objective of the Israeli strike on Rafah.
What happened last night, sadly, there is no moral equivalence between the two things. What happened last night is we went after 2 high-value Hamas targets, and it appears from initial reports that somehow a fire broke out, and that sadly took the lives of others. Now, I say it appears too because it is under investigation, and the IDF investigates every accident of this nature to see what actually happened.
Well, Shayna Lowe from the Norwegian Refugee Council in Jerusalem expressed shock at the strike in Rafah.
We are just as shocked as everyone seeing the images coming out of Gaza late last night and early this morning. This is a clear sign of why the implementation of the ICJ's order last week on halting military operations in Rafah is so necessary. It's truly unconscionable to think that it's almost 8 months into this, we are still seeing images of women, children, civilians being targeted and killed in such a way.
The head of Gaza's largest United Nations agency, UNRWA, Philippe Lazzarini, says the strikes in Rafah are a reminder that nowhere is safe in Gaza.
I cannot comment on the casualties because we haven't been able to properly communicate with our team on the ground. I saw images. They are deeply disturbing and horrifying. I think we have been clear more than once There is no safe space in Gaza.
Well, we will go back to Dan Johnson in a few minutes for an update on all the very latest on events there.